You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
You're muted, Mike.
Okay, my mistake. I forgot to turn the button on there. Welcome to our show, and it's Thursday, December 19th, 2019. We've got a lot to talk about. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and Mike is in the control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments and questions. So let's get right on into it. Now, as expected, late last night, the House of Representatives passed these two articles of impeachment against Donald Trump, and liberal Democrats all across the country were celebrating. Apparently, a lot of them are under the impression that this automatically means Trump is going to be kicked out of office, that this is the end of the story. But of course it isn't, because the articles of impeachment basically represent an indictment, and now it has to go over to the Senate for the actual trial, where the Senate acts as judge and jury. And already Pelosi is thrown a monkey wrench into the situation by saying that they may not send these articles of impeachment over to the Senate. So they just sort of hang in limbo there, hanging over the head of Donald Trump, and of course can be used as a weapon against him next year. Well, this man was impeached here, and and that was the end of it. Personally, I think that Pelosi just wants to avoid the embarrassment of having the Senate throw all these charges out. Which is highly, highly likely. And Pelosi doesn't want to be embarrassed that way, neither do the Democrats. So better to just sort of leave it where it is, where they can say, we impeached him, we succeeded in impeaching him, and, we had the proof that he's guilty, and so forth and so on. Now, officially, publicly, what Pelosi is saying is that she's not going to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate until they get assurances that the Senate will conduct a fair trial. In other words, they want promises from the Senate that the Senate is basically going to go along with demands from the House of Representatives to allow witnesses like Chuck Schumer wanted. And this is completely inappropriate. She's threatening to withhold the articles of impeachment from the Senate unless they bow to her demands. Now, read that Constitution, okay? Once the House has passed the articles of impeachment, their part of the process is over. And they have no legal or moral right to go over to the Senate and dictate to them how they're going to conduct the trial. And so Pelosi is obstructing the Senate's constitutional role in the impeachment process, as well as abusing her own power and authority to do so. So she's actually guilty of that kind of abuse of power that formed one of the articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. And, apparently for the liberal Democrats, this whole thing was just this huge party. And apparently during one break in the impeachment hearings yesterday, the Democrats held a wine and cheese party in the Capitol building. So it was basically a party line vote. Surprisingly, there were two Democrats who voted no. Tulsi Gabbard voted present. And so it wasn't entirely a slam dunk for the Democrats. And of course, no Republicans voted yes. And Trump is out there saying, he's not feeling like he was actually impeached because the whole thing was such a sham. And it was. Now, Mitch McConnell was out there slamming the Democratic impeachment on the floor of the Senate. He described it as the most rushed, least thorough, and most unfair impeachment vote in history. And worse, it is setting a toxic precedent. And what he's talking about is what I was mentioning yesterday. If this impeachment actually worked and went through and Trump was removed, it's going to hamstring all future presidents and basically bring them under the control of the Congress. Because, if a president dares veto a piece of legislation that the Congress passes, they'll just say, oh, he's abusing his power. He's obstructing the Congress. And, it's time for another impeachment. So Congress is definitely overstepped their, rather the House has overstepped their authority. Pelosi's overstepped her authority, and now they're trying this stunt of withholding the actual articles of impeachment from the Senate. And as I said, I think the real reason is Pelosi's afraid they're going to lose there. And she doesn't want that embarrassment on the Democratic Party going into the 2020 elections. Her excuse is, well, you know, the Senate wasn't able to assure us that this would be a fair trial. In other words, the House wants to control what the Senate does in the trial. Again, it's not in the Constitution. It's absolutely not in the Constitution. All righty. Republican Representative Doug Collins slams the Democrats, calling them a clear and present danger to America. And basically says that the Democrats' 3-year unhinged plan to get rid of President Trump over nothing is a clear and present danger to the United States. And it is. You know, the House of Representatives is trying to basically expand their power and authority beyond its constitutional limits. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, ABC's Terry Moran is out there saying that, yes, this may be the third impeachment in U.S. history, but it's the first ever impeachment that broke along party lines. It's obvious that this was a partisan operation here. The Democrats had a slim majority in the House of Representatives, and they just used it to ramrod this through. Anyway, Trump last night was over at his rally in Michigan. It was a full house. The audience was cheering him along, and he basically, you know, ripped into the impeachment process. And it certainly doesn't look like he's upset by this, or it doesn't look like it's bothering him, is basically what it comes down to. And that's a good thing, I think. Anyway, Kevin McCarthy brings a resolution condemning the abuse of power by Schiff and Nadler in the impeachment proceedings. So the resolutions of abuse of power are starting to fly, and he's absolutely right. Schiff abused his power and authority, first and foremost, by changing the rules of the House impeachment hearings so that the GOP could not bring their own witnesses. They couldn't cross-examine the so-called witnesses that the Democrats put up there. And I say so-called because none of the Democratic witnesses actually saw Trump do anything wrong. It was all conjecture, rumor, innuendo. They had these 3 left-wing political analysts get up there and say, well, you know, if thus and such happened, yes, it would be impeachable. And the attitude of the Democrats was, we know that Trump did all these things. Oh, proof? We don't need any proof. We have faith on our side here. Now, a little aspect of this has emerged that even I was not aware of. But apparently a surprising key figure behind the probe into Donald Trump is Hillary Clinton. And she got hired by the House Judiciary Committee to research impeachment processes, its uses around the world, historical precedent and standards to try and help build a case against Donald Trump. And so part of their argument was going to be, well, we know how impeachment is described in the Constitution, but look in these other countries, the way they handle it, it's really far superior to what we have here. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But what we have here is constrained by that Constitution. And the Democrats have clearly demonstrated they have no regard for the Constitution, no regard for the rule of law. It's just win at all costs. And that is a very, very dangerous situation. Okay. George Nader was charged earlier this year with child trafficking and transporting child pornography. And apparently he's one of 7 people named in an indictment unsealed in Washington, D.C. Tuesday involving campaign payments. And apparently he's charged with funneling millions of dollars to Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. And apparently he was funneling money to Ahmed Andy Khawaja, of Los Angeles in order to circumvent federal election laws that restrict the amount of donations from a specific individual and where the money's actually coming from. So I'm sure that there was going to be a quid pro quo, and would be interesting to find out what did Hillary promise Nader she would do for him had she won the White House. Now, a little bit of good news, okay? Paul Manafort has been charged for fraud both at the federal level and the New York State level, and the judges in the New York State case dismissed that case, saying it represents a case of double jeopardy. So now Manafort is just looking at the federal case, which means Donald Trump can issue a pardon or a commutation of sentence. See, the president can't issue a pardon or a commutation in a state conviction, but he can in federal crimes. So that may be some good news for Manafort here. Down in Georgia, the liberal Democrats are screaming because a federal judge is allowing Georgia to move ahead with a purge of over 300,000 voters deemed inactive by Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. And the liberal Democrats are out there saying this is an illegal voter suppression effort ahead of the 2020 election. And just because these Georgians haven't voted in recent elections, is no reason for them to lose their franchise. Well, if they want to vote next year, they can always re-register. But what's going on here is the liberal Democrats need those unused voter registrations because that is where a lot of the fraud comes from. So they're already out there screaming and saying, no, this isn't fair. This isn't right. We need those non-voting registrations. We're going to vote for them because we know what's best for the country and for those people of Georgia. All right, if you have been to Washington, D.C., in the middle of the cluster of museums there, like the Smithsonian, is one called the Newseum, and it's basically a temple built by the fake news media to honor itself. And it charged a $25 admission to see exhibits dedicated to glorifying the corporate media. It is shutting down at the end of the month. Simply couldn't make it any longer. And my guess is probably attendance at the museum has declined in recent years because, people don't admire the corporate media. They don't respect the corporate media. And who wants to go into a museum and look at stuff that are probably already lies here. Okay, we're going to grab ourselves a phone call from Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, Mike, I think I know what I want for Christmas. I'd like two things. One is I want a trial in the Senate. And two, I'd like to see Ruth Bader Ginsburg resign. I don't want to see her die, but that's probably what will happen before she resigned. But just for the theatrics and the exposure and the craziness, I think that's great. I think that that's what this country really needs. It's good
agree.
to show, I think that's why Pelosi is holding these impeachment articles up. Is one, they're flimsy and they're going to get shot down right away, and yes. Two is if she can keep it hanging over Trump's head, so when Ruth Bader Ginsburg kicks the bucket, that they can say, well, he's impeached. He can't pick a Supreme Court justice. He might have a trial in the Senate, blah, blah, blah. Which won't work. But, once again, I just hope, to me, if this isn't enough of what just happened to Trump, of an indication of why he's got to take the gloves off, why he's got to go full yes. Epstein, and why he's got to tell Barr either shit or get off the pot, excuse my French, but there's no other better way to put it, or fire him. And fire Ray. This should actually be a liberating thing,
Yes.
One time I got called up by the captain on a boat because I used foul language to one of the mates. And he told me he was going to write me up and all that. And I said, and they had the chief engineer there and all the officers there. And I just lit into the captain. I said, oh, you want to hear foul language? Here you go. And I said, what are you going to do? Fire me? They couldn't fire me. They needed me. I was the only one that could really run that boat well. And that was very liberating. And I never got messed with again besides
yes.
that. So sometimes an incident like this. So all right, that's all. That's the worst you got, impeachment. I saw him last night. It was like he laughed it off.
Yes.
And he was happy about the fact that the Republicans were unified. To tell you the truth, it was a very good night for Trump as far as an impeachment goes. He didn't lose one Republican. He had two Democrats. One of them is joining the Republican Party today. And I'll give Tulsi her due. She voted present, which is acceptable. I accept that from her. And boy, I wish the Democrats would do something with her. But the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick was I read in the paper that video is missing from Epstein's attempted suicide. But the interesting part is it's not the second suicide, the one where he killed himself. It was the attempted suicide, the first one. And I think I called you about 2 months ago, and I said, I bet you that's when they did a switcheroo. You know, they might have found a guy in a coma that looks like him, or somebody that they had facial work done to look at. Because the fact that the surveillance videos, the hallway videos were gone, you know, are missing. That really it kind of strengthens my initial intuition on what I think happened, which is they did the switcheroo on that one, and then within 10 days, the guy, whoever it was dead. You know, so it makes a lot of sense. And when you're talking about Mossad and Deep State, CIA, and all that kind of stuff, as well as corrupt prison systems and FBI, and it's very plausible for them to do that. And I think that's what happened. And I'm interested in why they let that out. You know, are they softening us up to tell us the real story? I mean, or else is it just something that got out because they couldn't control it? You know,
I think it's the latter one, because they're never going to tell us the real story about what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. But I mean, you know, what are the odds that, first of all, the cameras outside of his cell all malfunctioned the night of his death. And now we're finding out that the videotape of his supposed first attempt at suicide, which may have been, you know, they were beating him up and trying to find his dead man switches, is simply missing. It's unavailable. I mean, what are the odds of the videos being messed with just for those 2 days?
Yeah, and the one in the hallway, that would show, like, people who went in there. Or maybe they, like I said, they could have wheeled a guy in a coma that looks like Epstein into the cell, and he could have walked out. That would show that, you know? So it's interesting that that's what's missing, and it's not the night of the suicide that's missing. It's the night of his attempted first suicide, which was very odd to begin with and forgotten about. Nobody talks really about that. And, you know, that was an opportune time for them to pull a fast one. Other, like, quick thing I wanted to mention was, you know, that girl got killed there in New York from Barnard College, right near Columbia University. I just wanted to say, like, 35 years ago, I went to visit my buddy that was going to Columbia University, and I took the wrong subway, and I got off, I think it was the B train, and I got off to go to Columbia University. So I was going to walk through the park, and up there's like a stairwell, you know, because it's up like on a little bit of a cliff or a bluff. And the police pulled me over, and they're like, "Where are you going?" I go, "I'm going to Columbia University." And they're like, "Get in the car." I'm like, "I didn't do anything." They said, "Get in the car." So I get in the car. I go, "Well, officer, I didn't do anything." And he's like, "No, it's okay." He says, "You're going to Columbia University, right?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Let me take you there. We'd like take people there because, you know, if you go up that hill, you go up that stairway, there's a good chance there'll be a bunch of thugs up there waiting for you. Because by the time you get up there, you're a little winded and you're surprised. You don't know, you can't run down, whatever." And they took me up. It was like a taxi. They dropped me off. And I said, "Well, you guys should get some plainclothes cops to go up and down here, you know, and just, you know, have a cop go up and arrest them and shoot them if you have to." And he's like, "Well, they don't want us to do that. So this is what we do to keep people from, you know, having trouble." So when I heard about this poor girl, you know, I guess she was down there buying weed or whatever, but that's besides the point. It just bothers me that these kids going to these schools aren't educated in the criminal element in that area. I mean, that probably hasn't gone away, you know, and I think the schools really, I'd like to look into their indoctrination program when the new students arrive. That are they warned? Because I just got warned by the police, so it's obviously a problem, and that was 30 years ago, you know.
Okay, well, Joe, we're going to have to take a commercial break. We're going to let you go here. Okay. We got other callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And next week is going to be Christmas. And all of us here at RBN and whatreallyhappened.com, we've been good little girls and boys this year, depending upon who you ask. And if you would like to put something in our Christmas stocking, the postal address is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. All right, let's go back to the phones here, starting with Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Listen, Mike, I'm no Benjamin Siegelbaum. Sorry, I'm no Benjamin Siegelbaum.
Okay.
But why none of those Jewish members of Congress, those so-called Jews in Congress, are not supporting Trump, man, after what he's done for Israel?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, Trump has just, rolled over belly up for Israel ever since he got into office. And people are still screaming about that executive order saying that Judaism is now a nationality, which is absurd. That's right out there with, men and women can swap genders just by thinking about it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna come in to his rescue, man. I don't get it. What all he's done for Israel. That's what I have to say, Mike. Thanks.
All right. Well, again, they may have an allegiance to some other player in American politics that is stronger than their allegiance to Donald Trump. And they may be looking forward to whoever they're going to replace Trump with or want to replace Trump with as willing to do even more for Israel than Trump did. Although it would be hard to imagine doing any more for Israel. I mean, that deal of the century, I mean, it's just this incredible giveaway. Doesn't look like it's going to work anyway. All right. Frank in North Carolina. Aloha, Frank. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah. To answer the last caller's question, why should they? Why should they support Trump? I mean, he's going to do what they want, whether or not they support it. He's going to do what they want, no matter what they do to him, no matter how poorly they treat him. He's always going to do what they want. Now, I agree with the Dr. Steve Pieczenik sound-alike that was on the previous caller before the last caller. You're right. I agree with his logic. He should take the gloves off. It should be a liberating a moment. But here's the thing. It will be in a way because he probably will escalate his rhetoric, but he's going to continue to do nothing for us. I mean, where is there any sign that he is going to escalate, that he's going to take the gloves off and do anything for the American people? Anything to secure the Constitution? He's not going to do any of that. He'll rhetorically he'll pay it lip service, but why should they treat him well? He's not going to do anything. He's not going to do anything for us. They own him anyway. They laugh at him. They have no respect for him.
You're absolutely
you see this in relationships all the time. You see this in relationships all the time. Why should the abuser change their ways if the abusee, if the abused party is just going to continue to go along with it and make excuses for their abuser?
It's almost like Trump is suffering from battered child syndrome or battered spouse syndrome. And, he may think he deserves to be treated like this at some level. He's had 3 years to try and clean up some of these problems that threaten his next year's election, and he really hasn't done it. All he's done is cater to the war machine and cater to Israel and cater to big business, and that's pretty much it. And he's out there campaigning on the strength of the economy, but I don't think this economy is going to be seen as all that great shape. I mean, yes, the stock market closed at a new record high, but the stock market doesn't represent the American economy. And it hasn't for quite a long time. It's a private little open-air gambling casino for the ultra-rich and the ultra-elite, and they're doing very well because of the Trump tax cut program. But ordinary Americans are struggling and suffering, and if Trump puts his entire campaign based on the economy, I'm expecting the Democrats to do something to sabotage that economy just so they can go say, look, he messed up the economy. Obama left the economy in great shape. That's a lie. And Trump really messed it up plus he's been impeached.
You know what I find curious is the whole time the president, Trump has been president, the media, you would think they would be ignoring the economy. Whatever good, positive is happening with the economy, but yet they're the cheerleaders for it. Why are they cheerleading the Trump administration economy? There's something fishy about that.
Yeah, there really is. Listen, I'll tell you what, Frank, stay on the line. I want to bring you back after this commercial break.
Let our voices ring out. Let them echo into next year. Celebrate, celebrate, let us celebrate. As days pass on their way, share the gift from above, the power of love, so
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Frank in North Carolina, and we're talking about, last night's House of Representatives votes and how despite all the things that Trump has done for Israel, most of which have drawn serious criticism, not just among the American people, but around the world. And the Jews in the House refused to defend him. And, it basically tells me there is another player in American politics to whom they feel their allegiance is much stronger than it is for Donald Trump. I mean, they've basically used him up, and they're getting ready to just throw him in the trash.
Well, I still think that, she's kind of throwing out a smokescreen, but I still think that Hillary Clinton is going to come out to save the Democratic Party in the end.
I agree. I mean, all the signs are there. She's doing all the talk shows. She just had a facelift. which doesn't look all that really good. She did the Howard Stern show. She did Graham Norton over in London. She's trying to get her face on TV and the media everywhere she can to remind everybody she's still out there.
All right, I'll let you go.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Stuart in Florida. Aloha, Stuart. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I just wanted to make a quick comment. Unfortunately, I think we see the nature of Tulsi Gabbard. She pretty much shows she has no principles, but she has no brains, because she voted present.
Yes.
There's no evidence against Trump. And so anybody who has any illusions in Tulsi Gabbard, she's just another politician. And excuse me, I've been working out.
Okay.
You add that to the fact that she says nothing about what's going on in Virginia. She waffles on the border issue, and she waffles on the Second Amendment. And she's really not a good candidate. I had hopes for her a little bit, but
yeah, me too.
After this last vote, where she votes present, she shows she's just wishy-washy. It's a character issue. A lot of times, I think you have to look at character issues because it's the foundation for everything else. Once I saw that Trump supported the attack on Syria his first year in office on the phony chemical weapons charge, I knew that the guy was finished, and so anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, well, thank you for your 2 cents. And yeah, I originally had high hopes for Tulsi Gabbard. I know she's a very sharp lady because I went to one of her events in Hawaii before we moved here to Indiana. But she's already out there playing the political game. And I think she probably in her heart of hearts wanted to vote no on the impeachment issue. But her grip on the nomination is tenuous at best. And she probably figured, she's going to need the support of the Democratic Party. And by voting no, she would lose that. And we already know that at least one of the Democrats who voted no on the impeachment has already swapped over to the Republican Party. But she is playing politics.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Merry Christmas. And we're going to go to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I just got home, went into my mailbox, and I found out a little bit of good news here. The state of North Carolina now is requiring photo ID to vote.
Good.
Okay? And
good for them.
This is a purple state. Yeah. I didn't even realize that. I'm pleasantly surprised. They allowed it before, and it was overruled by a court. And I think what happened is they managed to take it back into court, and this time the court ruled in favor of the state of North Carolina. So it requires a picture ID card now. And remember, this is a purple state. This is not this is not either red or blue anymore. And we don't want this to become like Virginia. So it's a very, very good thing. I think this is what's needed all over the country. I mean, they make it clear too that the state will provide you a photo ID card for free if you don't have one.
Yes.
So there's no excuse. And the good thing is this is going to deter people who are not supposed to vote. It's not only the illegal aliens and non-citizens, but you've also got, excuse me, you've also got people from other states maybe have, maybe they live in one state and they have a summer place here for the winter, and they'll vote in both states. They do that in Florida a lot too. Florida is infamous for that, So this will stop that. This will stop a lot of things. So, sorry, I got a cold here. I didn't go out with that jacket.
I do too.
Yeah, I've been going out with a jacket quite a bit, which I really shouldn't, because as soon as that sun goes down, it gets cold, But anyway, so what happened is evidently they did take it to court, and this is great news. I think this way They won't. It's a little bit more of a hassle for me because I got to go back down and re-register, But that's okay. I'm willing to do. I'm perfectly happy to do that for the good of the country, the good of the state, So that's pretty much all I wanted to tell. Oh yeah, one other thing about Tulsi.
Yes.
I wouldn't take that too seriously about her voting president. She still didn't vote in favor of impeachment. She said later on she gave, I think, position paper that Trump should be, has done wrong things, mainly, the wars, stealing Syria's oil and all that, and which I believe are impeachable offenses. But they don't want to impeach the man for something they encourage, or for that matter, they'd have to probably impeach retroactively Bush, Clinton, Obama, going right back to Reagan. They'd have to impeach just about every president since Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is the only one that I know that didn't commit war crimes during his time as the president. Since, after that, just about every president has. So, I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't be bothered too much by Tulsi. I want these wars ended, Mike. That's to me the most. Once we end these wars and we reduce our, the military-industrial complex, I think everything else is going to fit in. You know what I mean? I don't think Tulsi really wants to go for the guns. I think she's smart enough to understand what that would do. That could cause a civil war. She's already said stuff like that. Okay, that's why she said with impeachment could cause that kind of a rift. I don't think she's really going to come after the guns. Okay, every other Democrat I don't know about. I would suspect they might. Possibly Sanders might not, because Sanders, remember, people don't know that Vermont has actually some of the best gun laws in the United States. It's it's better than Texas because there is no law there. You can carry, concealed or open carry without a license, without anything. It's constitutional carry, really. A few other states have got that now, but Vermont was, I believe, one of the first ones, if not the first one, to have that. So, and Sanders
and their rate of gun crime is very, very low.
Absolutely, because who's stupid enough to want to commit a crime? Let's say break into somebody's house when they know they got the gun. You know what I mean? It's almost unknown. Just like around here, it's almost unknown because they know they're going to break into a house. They know that they're probably going to come face to face with an armed, with a gun owner, okay, and get their heads blown off. So they know better than that. That's one of the great things about Second Amendment. It really defends you. It really protects you.
Yes.
And that's all I wanted to say, Mike. I just wanted to let you know that about North Carolina. Okay.
Well, that's definitely good news, and we need more states to do that between now, well, basically in the next 11 months. So we definitely need to encourage this kind of stuff. We know there was massive fraud going on in 2016. There was massive fraud going on in 2018. And I'm sure that the vote riggers are going to double down, if you will, and try even harder next year.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. It's there's no question about it. They want to take away our votes. They want to take away our freedom of speech. And they want to take away our guns. And the Second Amendment basically backs up the First Amendment. I mean, police are not going to protect you. They're not going to protect you. No. Even if they want to, they can't do it. And a lot of them don't want to anyway. You see what's going on with Antifa when Antifa, how they conduct themselves, like in Oregon and Portland and all that. The police back down. They protect people. So, there's no, the only way to protect yourself is really to protect yourself.
Yes.
Don't rely on the police. Do not rely on the police, whatever you do. I had an incident here a couple of years ago in North Carolina. 1 o'clock in the morning, somebody rolled up on my lawn, and I live in a very isolated area. Okay, with a couple of people in the car. I didn't call 911. I went right down there, weapon in hand, and confronted them. Well, as soon as they saw me come out, I had my dogs too, by the way. As soon as they saw me come out, they shot out like a bat out of hell. But it wasn't because they were scared of me. They were scared of what I was carrying. Okay?
Yes. I went through that once before myself when I still lived in North Hollywood.
Yeah. 12 gauge shotgun will do it all the time. You know what I mean? When I see he's coming out with something like that, 870 pump action. So that's what scared him off. And that was it. I didn't have to. I did report it to the police afterward, the sheriff's department. That's when we got a sheriff's department. I told them what happened, so they'd be in the alert. They asked me whether I wanted to have an officer. And now I said, look, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm going back to bed. And that was it. That was the incident. But had I not had a weapon, who knows what these two clowns are up to? I'm pretty. I can take care of myself. But 2-on-1, they might have knives, guns themselves. Good chance they have been armed. I'd have been up, a creek without a paddle. So that's why it's so important, Mike. Really. All right. Anyway,
it really is.
I don't talk to you again before Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas. You win, though. Okay.
Okay, and same to you. Thank you very much for the call. Okay. And we're going to switch over to Mike in Kentucky. Aloha, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay, I thought there was another caller in front of me. We got segments of the population that are just pretty much neutralized by their worldview. And when it comes to, anything and everything the government does, and anything and everything Israel does, they get the whole Hitler's excuse, Romans chapter 13, there's nobody in authority except the ones that God want in authority. And yet, who did King George III, crazy King George, surrender his sovereignty allegedly to? And I think Patrick Henry, of course, smelled a rat. He said, look, you guys don't have any authority to say we the people. It's we the states. But there it is. It's in the Constitution. So ultimately, when you're talking about those that are in authority in this country, in this land, that's us.
Yes.
So, when it comes to Romans chapter 13, don't rebel against yourself. I mean, we need to take the authority back. And of course, that Christians United for Israel and stuff out of Texas, John Hagee and all his blood moon stuff and all that. Israel can do no wrong. But Claire might agree with this, kind of taking it out of context here and piecing it together. But those who hate me love death.
Yes.
And that crowd jumped around and celebrated, and there's been, I don't know, 2 different installments of that came out this year due to some Freedom of Information Act request. But my concern with Trump is once he's given them everything they want, aren't they done with him? Can they just throw him away like a piece of trash? Because what is he not giving the Israelis?
What they're doing. It looks like exactly like what they're doing. I mean, even this supposed deal of the century, it's a total giveaway. And there was another leaked copy of it that got out today, and just reading it, it's just horribly one-sided in favor of Israel. It holds out the promise of a separate Palestinian state called New Palestine, which is being treated more like a Native American reservation than an independent sovereign state. And yesterday, of course, the Congress refused to provide any more funding to pursue this because they think it's doomed to fail. And maybe that's why the Jews in the House of Representatives have abandoned Trump, because he's done all he can do for Israel. He can't do this one final deal. And so, he's all used up, and they're ready to basically get rid of him and jump onto the next host.
Jump onto the next puppet. But that's what I would encourage people to keep in mind is that, supposedly in this land, if we have a legitimate government, and that's questionable, of course, since they still had a quorum in 1862. If they had a quorum in 1913 to pass the Federal Reserve Act, they had a quorum in 1862. So the real union is still sitting there, abandoned, and this is an occupation government occupying the offices that are not being used. I mean, so we got kind of an imposter government, I think, in place.
I would agree.
And we, the people, are supposed to be under the Romans 13. Who's in authority installed by the Most High. If you're going to take that to extreme, then stop sitting back and letting these people take power that they shouldn't have. is the perspective I have on that. And
Well,
whatever they're going to do with
my
Trump.
hat is off right now to the people of France who are taking back control of their government, or control of their country, rather. Macron looks like he's getting ready to back down on some of the stuff that he was doing. And as I mentioned earlier in the week, there was this commentator on Fox News saying, we can't have that happen here in the United States. I mean, the people forcing the government to make changes in policy, I mean, we just can't do that. And that tells us how afraid they are.
Well, I'm with Claire and somewhat with you when you're talking about this whole shooting match. They've leveraged out so much debt. They're trying to monetize space with all this 5G and Wi-Fi stuff. That, so much for the ozone layer if they destroy that. But they're looking for any way to leverage more assets. And Hal Rogers and Mitch McConnell have commissioned a study in this act they're trying to get passed to rewild Eastern Kentucky, and the coal hole economy is going to be leveraged if they have their way towards more debt. There's no conservatives anywhere.
No, there aren't.
I'll let
Anyway,
you go.
Mike, we're going to let you go. We got to take a break for commercial. We've got another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Peter, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Mike, I want to talk about impeachment, but I heard something yesterday that I believe it was Mark said that what I thought was, if it was an original idea, it was a great one about having a senator type situation for counties and within states. Remember him saying that?
Yeah.
That redresses some of the population imbalances where the big cities control everything. I think that's a great idea. But listen, I called up, as I do pretty often, I called up a whole slew of congressmen today, and I basically told them, these are the people that voted yes on impeachment, that I don't mind impeaching Trump. I think he's a bloviating, ineffective blowhard, but I want to impeach for something like corruption, like Jared Kushner, like giving things away that he shouldn't be giving, things like that. But
yes,
but I don't want it being done by the secret police, and I don't want it being done by and I think I said this on the air before, but you can't have an impeachment anymore. There is no separation of powers or checks and balances when you have everything on everybody, when you've surveilled everybody, and if there's three people in the Senate and the House that are clean, well, maybe they're kids like Biden's kid, or maybe their parents, or maybe their wife, or maybe they're not, and so everybody can be gotten to, and so when you have, so how are you going to have an impeachment if you don't have the acquiescence of these people, who, by the way, are completely so untethered from the law and the Constitution that several years ago they bugged their own oversight committee with absolutely no accountability at all. And so I'm talking to these guys, they're mostly, of course, interns, and I'm saying, I said, look, if you look about it, I don't want it being done by the secret police, who the whistleblower, CIA, the FISA courts lied to and gamed, the dossier totally, made up of, surveilling everybody on Trump, and by the way, Bernie Sanders' campaign as well, with the 3-jump rule from the FISA courts and the surveillance rule, and on and on and on. I'm saying, look, if as much as I don't like Trump, the guy is, at least somebody voted for him. Nobody voted for Clapper or Brennan or Comey or Horowitz or Rosenstein or any of these guys. They're unelected secret policemen, and let's recognize what this country has become.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Am I hear the music? Am I?
Yeah. Do you want to stay over into the next hour?
If I may, yeah.
Okay. All right. Hang on to the phone. We're going to put you on hold. We'll be right back after station identification.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking with Peter in Los Angeles. And we're talking about, the impeachment process. And Peter, just sort of pick up where you left off.
Well, I just said that the national security state is absolutely essential, and an impeachment cannot be taking place anymore without their direct participation or acquiescence. And they may do it. We saw that with
the FBI was lying to the FISA court to sort of legitimize spying on the Trump campaign. This whole thing was just dirty and crooked from top to bottom. And now the corporate media is trying to basically make excuses. And they're already saying, all of these errors and mistakes were made by low-level FBI employees. So some poor FBI schmuck who has no authority whatsoever, they're going to make they're going to use them as a sacrificial lamb.
Mike, I see 4 power centers that control everything here. The top one is the banks. The second one is the oligarchs, and there, of course, are overlap between the two, and look who they are. The third one is the media, and the fourth one is the national security surveillance state, and they're all at play here. If you look, like, for instance, the media and the oligarchs. Well, look at Bezos with the Washington Post. Look at Bloomberg, right? The banks, of course, overarching everybody. Look at the people in the national security state who have carried this out on both sides. And we talked about how I think one group, Adelson, gives Trump money when he runs to them for aid. The other part, the Nadlers and the Schiffs and all those guys who are impeaching him, push him into a corner. So he has to go to Adelson. Look who they all are. And look at the people who populate the national security state and are carrying out the directives of the oligarchs, the bankers, and the participating media as well. Look who these people are. Yes. I think your previous caller alluded to it as well. It's as plain as day to me. It's as plain as day. By the way, I saw it on your site the other day, where the Federal Reserve is giving $3 trillion to who was it, Mike? Some banks,
Yes.
And I said to myself, here's a bunch of the Federal Reserve Jewish banks are giving money to other Jewish banks, and it's going to end up being our money. We're going to have to pay for it, but it's just a transfer of money between one Jewish group to another Jewish group, and I sent an article into you the other day about they had a couple of the big banks and who controls them. Predatory capitalism it was about.
Yes.
And where they and I don't know if you ran that or not, but that was a great article and unbelievably eye-opening as to who they were. So I don't know, Mike. We got all these states that you can't criticize people, you can't criticize their version of history. You can't hold a job if you with the state or county or feds unless you go along with what they say. They control every movie, every TV show, and I've even gone into religion. How both the New and the Old Testament are framed by them.
Yeah,
it's just
less the New Testament was framed by the Romans.
Well, also, but look who wrote them. They're all Jews, and even a Muslim is Abrahamic. So it's an incredible amount of control by a tiny group of people, and I don't know if there's any precedent in the history of the world what's going on here. And it's happening in Europe too. Totally destabilized Europe, you know. But I'm glad that people are finally at least opening their eyes to it, and more, you know, you hear it, you see it in the comments when the comments are being allowed, you know, on articles and so on. They must be afraid, really.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
I mean, a lot of the recent actions, like, you know, Trump's executive order and the rest of it, these are telling me that, in point of fact, the Zionists are very much afraid that people are, in fact, waking up and realizing what's been going on.
You know, Mike, somebody told me they saw Richard Jewell the other day, the movie, the Clay Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
And how it's basically telling the story of a national security state and media cooperation in ruining somebody. And I remember you talking about how the TWA flight was a sleight of hand to get away from that as well.
Yes.
And how incredibly odd it is, or at least unusual, that a movie like that even got made. And if it wasn't Clint Eastwood, I doubt it would have even been made. But what do you think of that, Mike?
Well, like I was saying the other day to another caller, Clint Eastwood's always been his own man. He does not respond well to pressure. And, you know, he's got what they call in Hollywood FU money, which means he doesn't have to work, and therefore he does not have to accept the dictates of those, you know, who would want to employ him. He can basically make the films he wants to make on his own terms. And so I think that's a big part of it. But again, he did leave out some of the context of the story, that the Olympic Park bombing took place right when the government needed the media to stop paying attention to all those witnesses who'd seen a missile fly up and hit TWA 800.
Yeah. That was something I hadn't thought of until I heard you say it on the air. But the other thing is that Clint Eastwood makes them enough money that even if he says something a little bit off message for them, at least they're making big money off of it.
Yeah, unlike the newest Star Wars movie, which apparently is a giant turkey.
Yeah. Mike, I know there's other callers. Listen, Merry Christmas to you and Claire. Thank God that you're there, and thank God for the people who call in. All of them have something to say. And bless you, man.
All right. Well, thank you and Merry Christmas. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And apparently Adam Schiff was on Rachel Maddow last night, still pushing the Trump-Ukraine conspiracy. And during the conversation said, now the House was going to go after Vice President Mike Pence next. And claims to have evidence that the vice president is hiding information in the House Ukrainian investigation. So they want to clean out the entire White House. They want that place absolutely empty for when the Empress Hillary I steps into it next year. That's really what's going on here. All right, we're going to take another phone call. Mike in Arizona. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, good afternoon, Mike. You've been covering, there's been a number of callers that have called in the last few days talking about what's coming, talking about civil war, guerrilla war, things like that. And I'd kind of like to, you know, maybe define some of these things and some concepts, if I may.
Briefly, yes, go ahead.
Okay, very good. Now, as a broader category, oftentimes we hear the word unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare, but a more proper terminology would be insurgency. Now, the main components or the parts of an insurgency are the political subversives, the guerrillas, the terrorists, the undergrounds, and the auxiliary. So guerrilla warfare in and of itself is only like 1/5 or so of what an insurgency is. Oftentimes people point to the American Revolution as an insurgency, and we hear all about the people hiding behind the rocks going in Concord and everything like that. But also bear in mind that before that all occurred, the people in the colonies had elected their representatives to go to Philadelphia, the political subversives that were all behind it. So the word insurgency, it's a Latin word, INSURGERE, and in the participle, it means to rise up. It's sometimes described as the war of the fleet, the war of the weak against the strong, because insurgency, oftentimes I hear people talk about getting their guns and going after this, but what needs to be understood is that in insurgency is a political military conflict that's waged against specific factions or factions, and they implement irregular military action in support of a unified political outcome short of revolution and civil war. Now, while regular military forces can be employed, the irregular operations, and they're rooted in political subversion, selective terrorism, and guerrilla operations, they play an integral, if not a primary role in the outcome. And so political subversion, selective terrorism, and guerrilla operations are then tactics that when they combine, they can represent an insurgency, because the insurgency is a strategic political development that implements those tactics as a means to sustain itself until a further development can occur. And so consequently, an insurgency as a type of war may lead to and be part of a larger conventional conflict, revolution, or civil war. An insurgency as a method of war, that's going to imply the attempt to use violence and irregular forms of warfare against a particular factions or faction for the express purpose of a political military gain, and that can later lead to inclusion with or the overthrow of the existing regime. So when I throw out the word, I try to, give some definitions, and people were asking some questions about where to look for information. I'd like to do that. But, in an insurgency ecosystem that, people think, well, the government's going to do this and the patriots are going to rise up. Now, oftentimes in the insurgency ecosystem, you'll have...
Mike, can you sort of get to the point? Because you're throwing a lot of words and definitions at us. I've lost track of what it is I think you're trying to say. So you need to sort of simplify things down here. We understand that you've researched this topic very, very thoroughly, and you're familiar with the words. But what is it you're trying to tell us?
Okay, number one, when people say that it's going to turn to guerrilla warfare, that is an incorrect terminology. Because there's a lot more to what's going on than just guerrilla warfare.
Well, we understand that. We understand that during the American Revolution, there were a lot more people involved in that than just the ones holding those muskets. And so I don't think you're really telling us anything that anybody who's thought seriously about this possibility hasn't already considered. Now, I don't want to see a civil war in this country. I don't want to see a revolution, but it's not up to me. It's basically going to be determined by how hard the government pushes on the American people. And right now, things are getting very dangerous down in Virginia.
I understand that. But, when I listen to your broadcast and I hear constantly people talking about guerrilla warfare, then it demonstrates to me a lack of knowledge, because there's no mention of the political formation or the undergrounds or the auxiliary when people call in and ask. Because, when this, whether it's a government in Virginia or the federal government, you're going to have to look at this. And this thing is going to be rather complicated, because you'll have the patriots, you'll have the government, you'll have Black Lives Matter, you'll have the Mexican cartels, you'll have Antifa, you'll have the illegal aliens, the United Nations, and the NGOs all in this whole mix. And in a conventional type of warfare, used to be that it would be like a mountaintop or a bridge or a key intersection that was the strategic terrain. But in
Yes.
an insurgency, it's the people, the population, that both sides are competing to gain the support thereof. And sometimes it's been referred to as like a tug of war. And what we don't want to do is pick up that rope, because when the government throws out the rope to engage in a tug of war contest, you don't have enough manpower to go up against the government. And, I oftentimes hear people calling in and talking about, well, I'll go get my guns and stuff like this. But
Yes.
there's a lot of other things like strategy, tactics, training, leadership, communications, security,
Yes.
field
Yes.
sanitation.
No, we understand
military
all that. Mike,
But I don't.
because the callers try and keep their messages short and simple. We're not going to get on these callers calling on in, and they're talking whether they call it guerrilla warfare or civil war or whatever. We know there's a lot of stuff that goes with it, but people aren't using up our precious airtime to try and go through all these different words and everything. We understand the mechanics. Those of us who studied the situation understand the mechanics of what you like to call an insurgency, and we understand that there's logistics, there's supply, there's all of those issues, and we're already well aware of that. So, Mike, I appreciate the phone call, but you seem to be lecturing us on things that you're assuming that we don't know, but we actually do. We just don't have enough time in this broadcast to talk about them. So thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. And in the end, it doesn't really matter what you call it or what you call the various components. It's basically the issue of the people of a country standing up to the government and saying, we've really had it with you, like they're starting to do over there in France. All righty. So getting on back to the news here. People are starting to really look at the war in Afghanistan, which has gone on for about 18 years now, and realizing that, like all of the other wars the United States has gotten into, it was promoted with lies. And Afghanistan didn't really do anything to us to justify being invaded. There was just that oil pipeline right of way, which was the primary cause for this conflict. This consortium of oil companies went before Congress and said, we want to build this pipeline through Afghanistan, but gosh darn, the Taliban want to charge us fair market value for the pipeline right of way, and we just think it would be cheaper to regime change the country. Then, of course, you had the ancillary benefit of access to all that opium. So it's being called the crime of the century, and it's basically involving 3 presidential administrations who lied to you, trick you into your support of the war against Afghanistan, which, as I said before, Afghanistan did absolutely nothing to us. Iraq didn't do anything to us. Syria didn't do anything to us. None of these countries the United States has militarily intervened in actually did anything that harmed our country, other than to refuse to allow Washington, D.C. to tell them how to run their business. That's a poor excuse to send all that money, trillions of dollars, and all these young American lives, just over, you won't do what we tell you to do. Anyway, the Syrian army has finalized military preparations and is awaiting orders to launch a large-scale ground operation in Greater Idlib, according to the Syrian media. The operation will allegedly be aimed at liberating the militant-held part of the M5 highway, which, by the way, is also being one of the major oil smuggling routes. So, together with the separation of terrorists from the so-called moderate opposition, which was never moderate, the reopening of the highway is one of the key terms of the Idlib de-escalation agreement. Nonetheless, diplomatic efforts and peaceful measures did not achieve enough progress, and Greater Idlib remained the hotbed of terrorism in the country. And if you really think about it, you've got the United States went on in there, set up all these terrorists. They trained and funded Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Daesh, whatever you want to call them, and then use their presence in Syria as an excuse to keep our military in Syria, even though they do not have the permission of the Syrian government and they don't have a UN mandate. And Trump basically said what it's all about. He says, we're leaving troops in Syria for the oil, and I love the oil. So we'll be right back after these few minutes.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right, all the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay, unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And there is another situation that is brewing over there in the Middle East, like it's already not tumultuous enough here. But apparently a week ago, Turkey's Erdogan said he was ready to deploy troops to Libya on short notice. And today there are reports in the Arab media, still unconfirmed, that Turkish special operation forces landed in Tripoli. Now, the Libyan war between two Libyan parties will now become a very different situation because Egypt will not tolerate a Muslim Brotherhood-led Libya as its neighbor. So before the Turkish support allows the GNA government to defeat Haftar, Egypt will probably intervene. And the situation could rapidly devolve, if you will, into this intense war during which Turkish troops fight on Libyan grounds against the Egyptian military. Now, both countries have rich Arab sponsors who can finance a long and intense conflict. Both have lots of material and many, many soldiers who they can throw into the fray. The Egyptian side has one advantage. Its long land border allows for easy resupply, while Turkey will have to rely on supplies that come by sea and air and can be interdicted, cut off. So, with NATO still fuming over Erdogan's recent behavior, coupled with his threat to shut down the NATO bases at Incirlik, Erdogan is definitely becoming the loose cannon on the deck here. And no matter how he tries to paint this intervention, I rather suspect the rest of NATO will simply attempt to ignore it with dignity as long as it reasonably can. But the real question is who and what will support Egypt against Erdogan, and who will support Erdogan militarily should such a conflict erupt. So it's getting really, really crazy out there. All righty, Putin has come on out and basically said that if the United States refuses to extend the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, if it is not renewed, then nothing will hold back a new arms race. And Putin is well aware that it was the cost of the arms race that helped bring down the Soviet Union. And of course, contrary to what you're hearing on the corporate media, our economy is very strained right now. And more military spending is just going to make things worse. So, and again, this is an example of Trump basically being pro-business, in this case, the defense industries. And I think Eisenhower, with his Cross of Iron speech, really said it all. That you look at how much money goes into the military, and you look at like something like the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, and you look at how much money went in there, and just say, how much good would that amount of money done for the United States of America, for the American people, for our infrastructure? Because at this point, it's looking more and more like the Gerald R. Ford is almost as big a boondoggle as the F-35. And they just pour this money into the military-industrial complex. They're getting junk back. And the defense contractors, they have legions of lobbyists on Capitol Hill. And it's just a terrible situation there. All righty, so apparently in Moscow, there was a shooting near the headquarters of the Federal Security Service, the FSB, and apparently 3 people have been killed, including the shooter, and they're still trying to identify who that party was and find what the motive is. But there seems to be a lot of destabilization activity going on in Russia right now. Okay, a Czech think tank funded by NATO government calls for an EU blanket ban on Russian outlets like Russia Today. Right now, we're seeing this huge rush where governments want only their version of news to be put out there for the public consumption, and they're trying to shut down any alternatives, whether it's corporate media from other countries, the independent media. They're trying to reassert monopolistic control over what you see, read, and hear. To me, is a signal that they are getting ready for a major war. I don't want you to hear what's coming over from the other side. Meanwhile, apparently Estonia has gone a step further, and they have notified all reporters in Estonia who work for Sputnik News that unless they resign Sputnik News by the end of the year, they face prosecution and possible jail time. And so Sputnik and RT Editor-in-Chief Margarita Simonyan. Oh, got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
On the 5th day of global warming, Al Gore gave to me 5 dropping bars, $4 gas, 3 failed automakers, 2 melting ice caps, and a fear-mongering documentary.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're talking about Estonia, which has sent notifications to all of the staffers working for Sputnik, saying that if they don't resign their job by the end of the year, they face legal prosecution and possible jail time. And so Sputnik and Russia Today editor-in-chief Margarita Simonyan is saying that if Estonia does prosecute the Sputnik staffers, that it's time for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and the European Court of Human Rights should be taken apart, because they're obviously not doing their job there. All right, we're going to take another phone call here. Kelly in Austin. Aloha, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
My eyes almost rolled into the back of my head when I heard that pedantic disquisition about guerrilla warfare and insurgency. The caller completely misunderstands what people are referring to when we refer to guerrilla warfare. No one implies that you're just going to grab a gun, go out, and blow up a bridge. These are things that are done in coordination with other people of other like-minded people groups that are working in coordination with each other. They all know that in this country, that none of those groups can take on the U.S. Army regulars or the National Guard head on, and so the strategy that they develop is one of guerrilla warfare. So if he thinks that people are laboring under the misconception that they're going to work out where they're going to grab their guns and go out in a willy-nilly fashion, just conduct guerrilla warfare, he is dead wrong. The militias in this country are talking with each other.
Yes.
I assure you that many of them have coordinated their activities and are planning to conduct operations with each other. So that if something happens, if this insurgency blows up, then what you're going to see is a guerrilla warfare conducted by the militias and then by people who will join the militias to make the lives of the Army regulars and the National Guard absolutely miserable.
Yes.
I'm just nonplussed to hear that pedantic nonsense, downplaying the role of guerrilla warfare and the intent of people who are expressing their dismay and their anger with this government and their willingness to do something to step forward and stop this tyrannical government from going any further than it's already gone.
Well, I think Mike's agenda on that phone call was to try and make the case that we shouldn't be thinking about, an armed opposition to the government, which I don't support that anyway, and I never really have. But we do know down in Virginia, at least one county is already organizing their own militia. And so there's your leadership structure. But anybody who has really studied urban warfare, rebellion, whatever, they already know all this stuff that Mike was saying. It's not just a bunch of people with guns. It's getting the ammunition to the people with guns, logistics, it's getting them fed. It's the stuff that Washington had to deal with at Valley Forge. There does have to be good, secure communications between the various units. There does have to be good security because, obviously these militias can be infiltrated. In fact, I remember, back in the 1990s, I think, late 1990s, there was a big stink where the communications director for the Tri-States militia was exposed as an FBI informant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always a big matter of concern among the militias, and you know damn well that the FBI is working as hard as it can to infiltrate them right now.
Yes, I'm sure of
What
it.
I heard was really nothing more than a penetrating, a pedantic and penetrating glimpse into the obvious. We didn't need to hear that.
No, we didn't. That's why I cut him off. And, I do try and let callers have their say, but he was basically telling us what we already know, and he was taking a very long time to do it. So I finally had to pull the plug on him.
Well, no, that's why I said my eyes were about ready to roll up into the top back of my head, because I thought you didn't get to the point. You're telling us things we already know, but you're not telling us something else.
Yes.
He wasn't getting to the point. And what aggravates me about some people, some callers, is that they amble from point to point to point without getting to a central point. And that's an example of somebody who just went around in circles. He was impressing people with his knowledge of the vocabulary, but his grasp of the vocabulary, but he didn't really tell you what he knew or about what's actually likely to happen if as they say, the SHTF in this country, which I think is now is likely to happen more than ever. I think it's likely to happen. So that's
I'm afraid you're right on that last one. I don't want to see it happen. In fact, a big motive why I stayed with this website for 25 years and the radio shows for, I think, 12 years now I've been doing radio. It was to basically try and find a peaceful way to restore our republic. And on that, obviously, I have failed. But I think Mike's real agenda was to try and convince everybody, oh, it's really just too complicated. Don't even think about, standing up to the government here. And I think the giveaway comment was when he was talking about the tug of war. If the government throws out a rope, you don't want to grab it because you don't have enough manpower. Well, actually, we do. The politicians in Washington, D.C., there's 500-600 of them, plus, a bunch of bureaucrats versus 330 million Americans out here, most of whom have guns. And there's this wonderful little video over on YouTube called The Tiny Dot, which really lays it out. If you're talking about just strength in numbers, the American people very easily overwhelm the government. And the big question would be, would the Army really be willing, first of all, to risk their own lives and shoot their fellow American citizens to support a government that clearly has gone off the constitutional reservation?
That's a good question. I don't think many of them would. Plus, I think something I need to consider as well is that the militias being vindictive in a situation like this are going to target the families of the members of the military who are supporting
that
us.
Would be
so
a bad move. That would be a bad move. Can you imagine what would have happened if Thomas Jefferson and George Washington had started going into the homes of the British soldiers and killing the kids right there, or gone into the British schools and started shooting the students? Would have had a very, very different outcome, because you need the popular support of the general population, and you look to try and build sympathy in your opposition. So they're going to say, look, this has gone on far enough. And again, we need to keep our eyes.
I agree, Mike, but you can't let government run roughshod and start arresting people and killing citizens just because they want to put down an insurgency. There has to be some balance to this. Now, really, what we're really getting around to here is the concept of asymmetric warfare.
Yes,
and the militias are really going to emphasize that tactic. They can't fight government forces one-on-one, but the mere prospect that things that the government doesn't want to happen could happen is something that can keep the government off balance. And that's what you want to do in a situation like this. I hope it doesn't happen, but Mike, I'm at the point at which I'm not sure it can be stopped. I see Democrats just going overboard right now, and I don't think that they understand that what they're going to experience as in retaliation or as backlash to what they're pushing is going to be far more severe than they've expected. And it might be what's happening. It's going to take something to reach a flashpoint.
Well, that could happen in Virginia, and again, I don't want this to happen. I'm arguing against it, but I think we've reached the point right now where people need to seriously consider the possibility of what could happen and prepare accordingly.
I agree with you, and I'm not sure we can resolve anything during the course of this phone call. Suffice it to say, we're really walking on thin ice right now, and I hate expressions like that, thin ice, but really that's what we are, or eggshells or whatever. And it'll take one group to do something that will provoke a response from the other side, and I think you'll see that it's the government that is more likely to be the provocateur in this case.
But whatever they'll do will be a false flag, and they're going to blame it on the gun nuts. In fact, I'm very, very concerned that there's going to be an incident in Virginia to demonize the Virginians who want to hang on to their guns, because that's how this government operates: lies, fraud, and deception.
I fully expect that. That's how this government has operated for decades and decades. False flag operations go back to the USS Maine. Look at the Lusitania, for example. Look at I think even Pearl Harbor was an example of a false flag of sorts, because the government go to Japan then to attack it. But then it was also the Gulf of Tonkin. And there have been other incidents along the way. So this government absolutely functions on the basis of false flag operations in order to provoke people into a response so that they can get them to support a disastrous war somewhere in the world. This makes me sick. All right, I've said my piece today, but this just makes me angry as hell. And then to hear somebody like Mike go on and on and on and absolutely say nothing that we don't already know is something that, just as I said, makes my head hurt.
Yeah, well, thank goodness for pain medications here. Anyway, Kelly, thank you very much for the phone call. Have a Merry Christmas, and we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Good day to you, sir. Yeah, Michael, what's on my mind is the BS. The BS started 70 years ago with these demon rats. BS is the Bolshevik Socialist Party, the demon rats. The Bolshevik Socialists have come full circle now. So, yeah, that's the real revolution that's taking place now. We'll see what happens. And, you know, you're talking about that one guy. I don't know if he ever read that. Maybe he read that book, The Turner Diaries or something. But, listen, you know, talking about a civil war, well, you know what? It would end quickly because, remember, it's all about the food, Michael. A lot of this, you know, people will be starving. You starve these cities out, and in 3 days they'll be capitulating. Because it's all about who's going to, the farmers, and they control the food. So, you know, and then, of course, you got to remember about air power. You drop 10 Moabs, and, you know, they're like little nuclear bomb warheads. So, you know, whoever controls the air and the food, it's mainly the food and the water.
Yes.
So, and, you know, we know who's controlling that, basically. So, there ain't no worries. But, yeah, Michael, you know, getting back to talking about what's going on. Did you see the Breitbart today about this Ocasio Cortez?
Yeah, she came on out and she said some piece of idiocy. I'm blanking on it.
No. Well, she was in Vegas. She was in Las Vegas saying that she's going to conduct her town halls in Spanish. So she's over in Vegas doing the whole thing, the whole town hall she's having there in Vegas in Spanish. See, there's your problem. These people are coming here. They're not coming here to learn the common language. They're not coming here. See, that's where the problem's going to be lying in this Constitution of ours. This country is an English-speaking country, but, you know, however, it's being usurped by all these, and you know, we know who's behind it. The Bolshevik Socialists are behind this, the Demon Rat Party. They're the ones that are flooding, like you said, Michael, Title 8. And, you know, Trump better show me something. He really better show me something. Now, he's an impeached president, and he better throw down the gauntlet and say, listen, now that you wanted to come after me and get me kicked out, I'm going to start arresting all of you. And by the way, Michael, did you see that guy Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, going after that guy Horowitz today?
Yes.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Or yesterday? And this guy Horowitz is now basically saying, yeah, Comey and the whole FBI are a bunch of clowns, and they're guilty of sin. They're guilty of sin. So, and you know, when are these people gonna, like, I got to agree with one guy we know, hey, I want to see some arrest here.
Yes.
Okay? Another thing, you got, 2,000 people in line in New York and New Jersey trying to get their driver's license? Where's the ICE agents? If you know these people are here illegally, when are you going to start rounding them up and put them in paddy wagons and arresting them, taking them to the border and deporting them? You're going to let them get licenses so you can steal the next election? Trump? Come on, President Trump. Now, you know these people are in line trying to get their driver's license and they're here illegally, and they're not going to vote for you. So what's going on here? Where's the ICE agents? Where's the Border Patrol to arrest these people? They're going to compete for your jobs, compete for your housing, your water, your sewer, your food. Come on. And we you know, Michael, we hear all these lying Democrats talk about the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal, my butt. Look what's going on in California.
Yes.
Look what's going on in that state. It's absurd. Michael, you know how much I found out, you know how much a block mason makes in California right now?
No, I wouldn't know that.
Well, I can know it because my brother tells me everything. They make $18 an hour.
Okay.
You know how much they were making in 1988? In 1988, they were making $28 an hour. That was in 1988, Michael.
Yeah. And that was good money back then.
A white or black Afro-American mason was making $28 an hour. They didn't have a lot of work back then, believe me. Now, there's so much competition. because all the illegals, they're paying them $18, $16 an hour.
Yeah.
They're not coming here to compliment. They came here to usurp, eat your lunch, and take your job. And I'm sick of hearing about, there ain't no whites or blacks will do these jobs that these people do. Okay, maybe when it comes to agriculture and picking tomatoes and stuff. But you know what? Matter of fact, they had a thing today on the news. I freaked out, and that's why I called your show, Michael. You see the new robot they got out? It was just on the news today, all over all the news networks. They're talking about the robot. You saw it?
Yeah, I saw it, and I made mention of this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. This idea that the illegals are necessary to harvest the crops, it's a myth because so much of that is now automated.
Yes, they have a robot now that can make 200 pizzas. 200 pizzas in 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah,
they make 200. They're gonna start like all these pizza restaurants, Papa John's and Domino's and all that. They're gonna start using robots to make the pizzas.
Yes.
So, I mean, who's kidding who here? And getting back to this impeachment nonsense, just watching Pelosi, like she's so somber in her black little outfit yesterday. Here's a woman that's 79 years old, pumped in hundreds of thousands of dollars in surgery on her face. Yet her city's got people walking around they have a poop control. And they got I think I saw 200 guys and women are in a thing called the poop control, Michael. And they're paying them $85,000 a year.
Well, I mean, the job is definitely worth it. Anyway, listen, Tom, we're going to let you go. We got to take a commercial break. We got another caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
And as days pass on their way, share the gift from above, the power of love, so that every day's Christmas Day.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in New York.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones to Ryan in Ohio. Aloha, Ryan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
One thing before I get to my subject is, they say we need the illegal aliens, but before to pick the strawberries and the apples and the oranges or whatever, before 1985 there was a work program with Mexico for years and years and years, and we'd bring in workers from Mexico on buses and send them over to the farms, pick their stuff, and when they got done picking, you put them back on the buses and send them home, and we paid the Mexican government, and the Mexican government then paid the people. But after 1985, that just went all to the wayside when Ronald Reagan signed that allowing 3 million illegal aliens to stay into the country. And ever since then, they've been pouring in by the millions. But they just use that, well, we need the illegals to pick. Well, no, you don't. You get agreements with the Mexican government if we're shorthanded, and like I said. But here's the one with the guerrilla warfare with that guy. He got me going a little bit. I was kind of glad you cut him off finally. But, I always thinking about how do you overthrow a government with F-15s and jets, and if the military's on their side, and even though they got posse comitatus, who knows what's going to happen. But I always would say, guerrilla warfare is good, but, they're easily infiltrated so many times, and then the people never going. So I've always found the lone wolf theory is probably the best, because nobody knows where the one guy is going. And if you got 10,000 lone wolves, that's a pretty good start to go after the bad people. And then the other thing is, we have the Patriot Act. I really don't see why Trump couldn't use the Patriot Act right now on the Congress, because they are definitely unpatriotic with this impeaching this guy, trying to pass all these gun laws. And I just don't see why he can't do that in some way. And if he says he can, there is the law where, like Abraham Lincoln did, which suspended the Constitution, and then the president went after the people that were trying to overthrow the government, which is the Congress right now for the most part. So if he did that, and then if he was to get on the radio and get on the television and start arresting these CNNs and these ABC people who are definitely should be arrested with the Patriot Act, with all their lies going on, trying to get this thing stirred up, go there to ABC and CNN and whatever else you got and start arresting these people. And he needs to get on the television and say, we have a constitutional crisis and our Congress is being usurped with what everything that's been going on. I'm asking my privates and my sergeants and my corporals to arrest these generals that won't listen to me. And I would say, since 70% of our military and our state militias, what do you call them again? I forget. Are vote Republican, and most of them seem to like Trump. That yes. I would think that would pretty much work out pretty well. There might be some bad things happening, but for the most part, I see our country going by the wayside if something drastic doesn't happen.
Well,
but their last caller, when he started saying logistics, like right now, I hate to say it, but logistics, you just have. I think mostly you have to do the lone wolf man, because if you get 100 guys together, one of those guys is going to an infiltrator, and they're easier to track. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ryan, stay on the line.
Okay.
Stay on the line. We got to take a break for station identification. We're going to come right back to you after this small break.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking with Ryan in Ohio. And again,
Yes,
I
sir.
do not advocate civil war or revolution because a lot of people are going to get killed and crippled in this sort of a thing. But if the government keeps pushing on us like it has been, I'm in agreement with those callers who are saying it almost feels like it's inevitable now. I mean, even Rand Paul is saying we're heading towards a civil war. And so people need to start seriously thinking about that and not just, throw around a lot of rhetoric, but actually, study, become students of war. And a good place to start, of course, is The Art of War by blanking on his name, Sun Tzu.
Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm on the air. Yeah, the one last thing I was going to say, I went so quickly, I probably missed a few things. But, I'm 57 years old, so it's not like I'm, haven't been watching this stuff for a long time. And the big thing where I say a lot of these liberals, communists, whatever you want to call them, mostly the Democratic Party, not to say the Republican Party isn't much better, but they are trying to usurp the Constitution, because when you talk to these people, like millennials or whatever you want to call out these people, it's kind of like they say, well, the Constitution's outdated. Like they just want to get rid of it without going through the legal channels. To me, those people are going against the Constitution. And if you got a Patriot Act, those are the exact people that need to be arrested, even though I'm against the Patriot Act because it's really unpatriotic. But the way I see it, it's almost something serious has to happen or it's over, because they're just ignoring the Constitution completely, and they've trained these people in these colleges to say the Constitution's no good and let's just outlaw guns without going through the channels, and they don't really realize it's like the Constitution's been changed 15 times over the course. So how can it be outdated when you can actually change it? But these people, they just don't see it like that because they've been so brainwashed that when you talk to them, it's like they don't listen to you. It's like they got an off switch. They've been trained to have an off switch and ignore that. But yeah, I think the lone wolf is probably the best way. But I think by Donald Trump getting up there and getting on the radio and says, I need you to arrest the generals that won't listen to me, I then think the people would wake up, because I do believe a large portion of people are awoke. They're just afraid to do anything. They're waiting for a leader to do something. And look at Trump. I mean, they're doing everything they can to get rid of this guy who hasn't done anything wrong. He hasn't done a lot of things I wish he would do. But other than that, thanks for listening to me. Have a great night.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot, Ryan. We're going to let you go here, and the phone lines are now completely open again. But again, I do not advocate civil war or rebellion or even violence. I don't approve of what Antifa is doing. But I think we have reached the point where people need to seriously study how these things get done. Not wishful thinking, not watch a bunch of movies, although Hollywood's coming out with a lot of war movies right now, which is another giveaway. We're heading toward a major conflict. But really seriously think about, what actually does work when people want to bring down the government. Now, obviously, in the case of France, it is simply the entire population is just fed up. And it started over a year ago with the Yellow Vests, and now, of course, they're being joined by all these pensioners. So they are, in fact, bringing about change within France. And probably a lot of them right now are talking about the French revolutions. I know that there have been guillotines set up as part of the protests. They appear to be non-functioning, or at least I hope they're non-functioning. But it was a symbol of the French Revolution here. Okay, speaking of the population rising up against their own government, apparently there has been a major confrontation between tens of thousands of protesters and police. And apparently it all started after the Barcelona versus Real Madrid game. And people just started agitating and saying, Catalan independence, Catalan independence. And there was a heavy police presence in the area, a tough police response. And you need to look back at the Romanian Revolution, which actually began at a sporting event that turned into a spontaneous political rally. 2 weeks later, Ceausescu was machine gunned to death on Romanian TV. So these things actually do happen. You had the British people beheaded Charles I. You had the aforementioned French Revolution, the Romanian Revolution. You had the Italian people turn on Mussolini and then change sides in World War II. So it's really impossible to say that we know what the future is going to be. We know what the government wants the future to be. We know what the American people want the future to be, and they're not lining up. That is a very critical situation. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network here. Over in Iran, President Rouhani is warning that his nuclear experts are testing new advanced centrifuges and says that Iran's economy is on the mend despite America's heaviest sanctions. And basically what he means by that last point is other countries are willing to circumvent the U.S. sanctions to continue to do business with Iran. Iran is still selling its oil. The U.S. is throwing a tantrum about it. But more and more countries are saying, look, your sanctions don't apply to us. Okay, we're not your enemy, and we're not really all that friendly these days either. We're going to do what's in our best interest to do, because all of this sanctions and tariffs and oil price wars and everything have inflicted a lot of damage on nations other than that being targeted. A good example would be the oil price war that was supposed to cripple Russia's economy, not realizing that Russia's economy was far more diversified and resilient. But it caused a lot of damage to the Middle East oil trade. It forced the Saudi government to issue its first bonds in a generation. And now they're in serious financial trouble because they've been driven into debt. They're having trouble servicing that debt. Canadian oil interests got damaged by this. The shale oil got damaged by and it's very frustrating that we see so much foreign policy being pushed through without the ancillary issues being thought about. If we do this, if we throw more sanctions on this country, how will it affect, other countries in the region, especially those who might be favorably disposed to the United States? And if anybody is actually thinking about that in Washington, D.C., they're basically being ignored. All right, over in South Korea, there have been negotiations where Trump is now saying, well, we're going to keep our troops in South Korea, which the South Koreans don't really like anyway, but South Korea has to pay more for it. And the South Korean government is saying, no. If you want to keep your troops here, you pay for it. And so the talks have ended without a deal. And, Trump basically was demanding $5 billion per year from the government of South Korea to keep the U.S. troops there. And I think the message that's coming out of South Korea is you take your troops and you go home. Because all it's doing is inflaming the situation with North Korea. I mean, there was the Sunshine Agenda. Only a few years ago, North and South Korea were talking about reunification. They were going to, dig up all those landmines at the DMZ. They were going to reconnect all the highways and railroads, and they were going to go back to being just this one country, and they were all going to be buddy-buddy. And then the U.S. goes on in and starts agitating to try and keep the two Koreas separate. And, everyone talks about Afghanistan being the longest war this country's ever been in. That's not true, because we are still technically going on 70 years in a state of war with North Korea. And South Koreans are tired of it. The North Koreans are tired of it. Both North and South Korea are getting tired of the U.S. attitude of, you got to do what we tell you to do, and then maybe we'll do something nice for you. I think our country has thrown its weight around a little too much, and we are not looked up to by the rest of the world. We're feared by the rest of the world because of our military, but we're not respected. Fear and respect are two separate things. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Trump hasn't done anything wrong, but he hasn't done anything right either. I keep going back to this. If he gets in, again, and nothing is done half the second term, then you all have been played the fools.
Yes.
Second time, because I keep going back to the infrastructure bill, Zippo, the wall. Yeah, parts of the wall are being built, but they're not connected to each other. Where's the big fat door we're going to get? Remember, he said we're going to have a big fat door. Yeah, they're still coming over the border. And Tom, I heard Tom, Tom's right. All these illegals are still pouring in, and nobody's been arrested. Where's the brass knuckles, man? I don't want Mr. Pillow Knuckles. I want brass knuckles, But
I'm in agreement here, and the only way I'm going to support Trump next year is if Hillary steps on in. Other than that, if Hillary, comes to her senses and realizes she doesn't want to be 3 strikes and you're out in the history books, if she doesn't come into the race here, I'm just going to sit back and act as an impartial observer, and I'm not going to take sides because Trump has been a disappointment. He turned his back on the independent media, and we busted our butt to get him that job in the Oval Office. And he has not addressed the issue of all the social media corporations starting to filter us. And he's got to understand, they're going to filter him next year. Okay? They were doing it in 2016. They did it in 2018. They're going to do it next year. And Trump seems rather oblivious to all of this.
Yeah, where's the election protection? Nothing. And I just want to let people know, because I know a while ago some people said, "Oh, I'm just a loyal Democrat." I voted for Trump. Trump's. Somebody called me a lifelong Democrat, but Trump's the actual original lifelong Democrat. I mean, he was in New York and he was in that inner circle. He hung out with, Jeff Epstein and, Bill Clinton. He had a picture taken on the golf course, and now he hung in those circles. He went to, what's her name's wedding? Bill Clinton's, what's his daughter's name? Chelsea Clinton's wedding. So, I mean, but do you think maybe Trump is still like a Democrat in a way? Because because he's not doing anything. He's getting fought. They're fighting him, but is it maybe all for show? Because this is not a real thing where they can take him down, because he never even had his day going up to like Bill Clinton had. They didn't even, you know what I mean? Like he's not.
Yes.
It's a fake. It's a fake. And if you look, everybody seems like they're pulling back. You know what? They're playing both sides. We're going to continue with the impeachment, and then like they pull back from it. You know, it's like there's some kind of weird crap going on.
Well,
You know, and
with that whole situation, I mean, Nancy Pelosi's out there saying that they're not going to forward the articles of impeachment to the Senate until the Senate agrees to run the trial the way the House wants, which is so far outside the Constitution, they're not even in the same zip code. I think the reality is that the Democrats just don't want to go through the embarrassment of having the Senate acquit the president. And I think that's really what's going on.
They want to have their cake and eat it too, though. You know,
yeah,
they
that's
want to
essentially
look
what it
strong,
is.
But yeah, what a and you know, Mike, you know, like I said, it's almost Christmas, and we have nothing. We're back. We're actually not, we're worse off than we started because I know one of your listeners yesterday said Trump signed that one of the NDA bills or something. I mean, I think we're worse. It seems like every time we get a president.
He signed the omnibus spending bill to keep the government open, and as has always been the case with these omnibus, you know, these must-pass bills, it's loaded up with all kinds of junk. And I think you were confusing that briefly with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, which was passed by the House today when nobody was looking. So it goes to the Senate. It's probably going to pass there, and Trump is probably going to sign it. And that's the first stage to setting up a European Union-like structure here in this hemisphere, because some of the provisions of this USMCA treaty are that commerce is going to be overseen by unelected regional panels, which is very, very similar to the system they set up in Brussels.
Isn't that what Bush was supposedly? Remember, there was a supposed thing that Bush was going to do it. It was some the North American Free Trade Agreement, wasn't it? No, not the North American. The same thing you just said.
Yeah,
like it was George. Yeah. But so nothing's like I said. We're in the same predicament but worse now. Like I think, you know, like I said, nothing's changed, and I don't think. I mean, and people, there ain't going to be no revolution, man. I'm sorry. Al said it best the other day. People are complacent, Mike. Lazy, complacent, and it's just like, look at the people in Germany, man. They didn't do squat against the Nazis, right? How people come into power, they take power, a small group of people, and people sit by, you know, speak no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil, right?
Well, it's a little more complicated than that because, you know, the Nazi government was conducting terror campaigns against their own people. The Germans were afraid to speak out. They were afraid to take action. The attitude was, if I'm a good little German, nothing bad will happen to me. Well, of course, they lost their entire country. There were Germans who fought back. There was a group called the Order of the White Rose that had printing presses, and they were printing up these little leaflets about what the Nazis were doing wrong. And they'd go up on the roofs of the buildings in the cities and just fling bundles of these into the streets for people to pick up and read.
But not the majority of people, though. You need the majority of people. A small group ain't going to do squat. You know? It sucks. We're watching this train wreck going on, Mike.
Yeah.
You know? And I know people are calling, they're aggravated, you know, and it's just like, when is something going to happen? You know, and I just don't see the American people really doing anything. I mean, if you really wanted to hit the elite, you knock out the Federal Reserves. That's it. Yeah, you got to hit their money supply. You know, that's it, man. If you know, but if Trump should shut down the government. If we really, I mean, we've been through this before with shutting down the government. Oh my God, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, you know, the only parts of the government that got shut down were the ones that took care of the American people. They shut down the national parks and you know, all of the machinery of the government itself and the deep state kept right on functioning.
It's just, you know, I watched Putin's 3-hour thing, and I'm like, you know, you look at them and the Chinese, sure, they got problems, but, you know, one thing that's going on is the world's moving away, and Germany says, you know, we're doing our own deals with Russia with the gas, you know, so, you know,
yes.
So that's basically, they're kind of standing up, you know, I mean, because they need to, because that's a lot of companies need that natural gas.
Yes.
in Germany, yeah. But Mike, that's all I got to say. And I still don't think Trump's. I think he was our last hope. That's what I had in my. I was like, man, this guy's going to do something when I vote. But I just don't see anything happening because. Yeah, it didn't happen, and I don't know if we've been duped or he just couldn't have the cojones to do anything. But I think we're being dragged along, man. I mean, it's just it's a slap in the face to us. It's just people who vote
it
in
really
general,
is. It really is, and like I said, if Hillary steps in to the race, I'm definitely going to be opposed to her. Going to bring back all those articles about all the dead bodies and the potential espionage that was going on in the State Department. And, she actually resigned her position at the State Department in order to dodge a subpoena. All right, Dustin, we're going to let you go. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And apparently, Harvey Weinstein isn't quite off the hook. Apparently, he's been hit with yet another lawsuit from a woman who was 16 at the time that she claims he assaulted her. This obviously is not going to be covered in the existing settlement deal. So looks like Harvey's problems aren't quite over. Maybe he needs to get out that walker again and start limping around and playing for sympathy. Okay, so let's see. We have Britain's Prince Charles is scheduled to visit the occupied Palestinian territories and Israel for the first time next month. And on behalf of the British government, the Prince of Wales will meet Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank, where the heir to the throne will undertake engagements. His 5-day trip will begin in Amman, the capital of Jordan, at the end of January and end in Jerusalem. Now, to their credit, Canada has backed a UN resolution on Palestinian self-determination. I'm sure they came under a huge amount of pressure on that one. Unfortunately, it's a General Assembly resolution, which means it does not carry the force of law. But the Assembly adopted the resolution 167 votes to 5, with 11 abstentions, with only Israel, the U.S., in addition to Pacific Island states, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Nauru, voting against the text. And the resolution reaffirms the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, including to their independent state of Palestine, urging states and UN agencies to continue to support and assist Palestinians in the early realization of their right to self-determination, which, by the way, is already guaranteed to Palestine in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which all of these countries have signed. Now, as you're probably aware, every time Israel hauls off and attacks someplace in the Gaza Strip or the West Bank, Hamas will fight back by launching rockets into the Israeli colonies. Usually they don't hit much of anything, which has led a lot of people to wonder how many of these rockets are really fired by Hamas versus by Israeli agent provocateurs. But now apparently Hamas has evolved their weaponry to the point where they could target Israel's maritime gas platforms out in the Mediterranean. And that would be a major blow for Israel because Israel earns $18 billion annually from the gas in the Mediterranean Sea, much of which is being harvested from the Mediterranean outside Israel's territorial waters. Their attitude is, we own the entire eastern end of the Mediterranean, and so we're going to go down there and just grab all the oil and gas that we can. But if Hamas is able to sink some of those platforms, that would be a major, major blow. Okay, over in Great Britain, there's a former Labour member of the Parliament, Chris Williamson, and he was basically pushed out of the party earlier this year with bogus allegations of anti-Semitism. And so he is now fighting back. He's founded an anti-smear legal fund. Apparently there was a crowdfunding campaign and a legal victory by Williamson and his supporters. And they've got enough money to put this anti-smear legal fund together. And Williamson was saying, we're going to keep defending our comrades by any means necessary. So somebody is finally organizing to fight back against all this scream about, oh, you're an anti-Semite, you're an anti-Semite, you're a Hitler lover, blah, 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 blah. All right, so let's grab some news about the economy. As you probably are hearing, because it's all over the corporate media, the stock market closed in record territory again, which for the vast majority of Americans, it's meaningless, especially those Americans who are struggling to, pay their mortgages and pay their bills or pay off their student loans. The economy is not doing well. It's another area in which we're being lied to. And that caller did have a valid point. Why is the corporate media going along saying that the economy is doing wonderful when they clearly don't like Donald Trump, who is trying to take credit for this wonderfully improved, best in history economy? So anyway, the stock market sentiment has only been this bullish twice before over the past 2 decades. And in both cases, there was a correction that followed here. Article coming out of Investment Watch blog, the huge disparity in corporate profits hints at something amiss. You're looking at, for example, the stock market, and for example, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. They don't average all the stocks out there in the stock market. They have a basket of what are called the index stocks or the indicator stocks. And those are the best performers. They specifically pick the best performers. They put them in this basket, and that's where they get the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's not a measure of the stock market as a whole. And so all anybody needs to do is buy up those indicator stocks. Got to take a break for commercial. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go to the phones to Keith Rogers. Aloha, Keith. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, you remember the old saying about for those that don't learn history?
Yes.
You know, one thing I have learned in all of my years, and I am non-political, I like to expose crime,
Yes.
is the American people always are meant to feel indignant when they hear Iran or Iranians chant death to America. Due to U.S. propaganda, they don't realize what has happened to Iran since 1953.
Yes.
When they look at all the immigration problems, they don't realize what has happened to Central and South America and other areas of the U.S. and their so-called coalition of CIA and their death squads, what they've done to those countries. And this is the same in Asia. Whether it's Vietnam and stuff like that. We are talking like Indonesia, the genocides in Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, East Timor, Guatemala. The list goes on. But Americans are indignant. And for me, looking at a neutral standpoint, is that it's like Pastor Wright, who said, America's chickens have come home to roost. What the U.S. has done abroad, they are now doing to their own people.
Yes.
And the only effective change is like during World War II or right before it, before the war broke out, the whole country was in disarray. When approached, they went to Roosevelt and were demanding change in the country. And Roosevelt said, it sounds good. Make me do it. And you had 4,000 some odd different strikes going on in this country at one time. The people rose up. We see that, as you mentioned earlier, as in France. We've seen it all through Central and South America, where people get out in the streets by the millions. And Americans are doing what? They're sitting here worried about their penis enlargement, transgenderism, breast augmentation, making TikTok memes, WhatsApp stupid. I mean, this is how dumbed down Americans are. And it was done for a reason. But now they've run roughshod. Trump hasn't done anything to curtail these bankers that have destroyed millions of lives, millions of people's credit. I'm a realist. And, you know, I actually still think that John should give Dustin a show on this network. But anyway, or at least he can come on to me. I only got an hour. But anyway, but this is what's going on here. What we see is the FBI from many years ago, and currently they have ran their domestic terrorism programs. They've created their police state. We're all being watched now, and we're supposed to worry about Donald Trump was being spied on. Well, hell, all Americans are being spied on. You know? We have a police state now that actually is out there policing for profit, with civil forfeiture, illegal highway stops, even detainment. If you watch any of these First Amendment audit videos, you see how rogue these cops are. My show Sunday will be about that. But anyway, but this is what's going on. And again, like I say, Americans are indignant. There's only a few, like in these videos that I've had News Now Houston, David that does that show down there in Texas here.
Yes.
Where he goes out there and he just, photography is not a crime. You can't trespass the eyes. But it's to the point where the government does not want you to know what they're doing. And how a journalist is beaten up or more, their cameras broke, everything like that, for filming a government installation, which is what your tax dollars pay for. And yet they're on the outside of a fence on public property. And you can see more from Google Earth than you can from that location. But these cops want total control. And the worst thing is, there was another story this morning here. These cops are being arrested en masse for either murder, corruption. And this is all systemic of what's going on in this country here, that it's been so rogue for so long that only finally Americans are waking up, and now they feel like they've been wronged. Well,
Yes.
imagine how all those countless millions of people in the world, and I don't care if you're in Iraq, that have had to bury their dead. Americans, as you've mentioned yourself, Mike, we have undertakers. Those people in Iraq, they personally have to care for their dead, wrap them, do it like that, dig the graves and stuff, you know. The same thing with Libya and Syria, where Obama violated his own Lugar-Obama bill and ran the arms over to Libya as a preemptive means to attack Libya with use of man-pads and stuff, further shipping them over to Syria. That State Department article, I think it was on Counterpunch, that the ISIS Toyotas were all bought by the State Department. You know, this is all systematic of how other countries have been totally destroyed. And now we, as Americans, are supposed to bitch because people are fleeing those areas where the United States have put in their fascist governments that are Western corporation friendly, destroyed their unions, their labor unions, their wage reforms, killed their bishops, their priests, their nuns. I mean, anyone that wants to, matter of fact, there's a good video on YouTube called On Company Business. It was done by the first CIA leaker, Philip Agee.
Yes.
And it shows how they busted up all the unions in Italy. And this was right after the war when people needed money to rebuild after the war, and they shut them down. And they used the mob to do it. And just like they've used the mob in Cuba, there is such a sordid, dark history of this country and this American exceptionalism has been the biggest lie. And for me, as an American, to sit there and watch Mike Pence at West Point talking to those cadets about the coming new wars, naming Russia, China, South America, you know, and then Trump himself saying that Nicaragua is a national security threat. They don't even have a navy.
Yes.
You know, and Americans just buy this and Nicaragua, it's in the news again. Well, of course it is. Well, that's, as you just mentioned yourself a minute ago, Netflix is running Red Dawn again. You know, this is a psych war on the American people.
Yes.
And so, you know, as a realist, you know, you have to stand back and sit there and say, you know, it's time to stop playing the victim. Oh, we're being overrun by immigration. Oh, the blacks are a problem, stuff like, you know. Both political parties who have been in office for decades and have been reelected, that's the issue. They have constantly been reelected. They're the ones that have destroyed this country. They're the ones that have destroyed other countries, and they're the ones who are profiting massively from these insider trading deals. They all have net worths in the millions of dollars on a payroll of $174,000 for working 130 to 180 days a year. And when they're working, they're there with their lobbyist and or their reelection stuff, you know. They're not doing anything. Look at the infrastructure of this country, as you pointed out clearly yesterday. You know, it's time to stop playing the victim and just find a way to fight back. But the only way to fight back, though, is to get out on the streets. That's what shows reform. And, of course, we'll know what we know, like in what's being done in France right now, what's met with resistance there. When you get out on the streets, they have their properly militarized police, and they start shooting people.
Yes.
What's that old saying there about the liberty about drawing blood, you know? But this is what's
That
wrong,
was
you know,
Thomas
and
Jefferson.
Americans...
The tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of
There you go.
patriots
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
tyrants from time to time.
Yeah, but yeah. So the only way to do this is America is not run by a president. It's run by great big corporations, and the only way to make them hurt is to stop buying their products.
I agree.
So
And
it's like that's why
Americans,
Israel's so. Yeah, I was just going to say, Mike, that's why Israel's so scared of the BDS movement. And here's another thing, like with Trump and this so-called pro-Brexit. Trump wants to take over the NHS of Britain. Well, look how many people are dying over there now. And so what does Johnson come out there and say? Well, the BDS movement's now illegal in Britain. You can bet they're going to come out with some kind of executive order type thing there that says you can't criticize Israel too.
Yeah, that
it's
one.
all been played, and Americans and others just sit back and they do nothing. They just worry more about their Game Boys, what apparel. I mean, I have to log in to watch a crazy Russian video, a crash video on YouTube, but my granddaughter can watch little boys and stuff putting on makeup or some LGBT down there in California looking for cute little puppies. I mean, they always sell things right, you know. Look what they've done to the schools and stuff. And I don't care about people's sexual preference and stuff, but when you start mandating that others have to accept things, I mean, that, you know, that's just like what Israel's doing. You should be surprised at who's training our law enforcement, and then watch as they shoot kids in the head over in Palestine, blow the legs off of people, kill journalists, emergency responders. Imagine that if it was on your corner, and it is actually, because that's who's training them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the crime today with the police and stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there before you.
Israel is training our police to treat the American people the way the IDF treats the Palestinians. I mean, that's pretty obvious to me.
And you listen to those videos on YouTube there. They all say that we are the law. They don't care about your rights. We are the law, you know? And that's not what this country used to be. Police used to, you know, matter of fact, when I was young, Mike, I was going to join the Nevada Highway Patrol because I was always impressed that when I'd see one of those nice blue and silver cars back in the 70s and stuff, they were always stopped there helping some lady change a tire and stuff. Now they call you a rotational wrecker for $300 some odd, and then they cite you for blocking the highway or something. I mean, this is how bad it's getting.
Yes.
It's policing for profit. Anyway, my best to you and Claire. Hope you have a good holiday, okay?
All right, thank you, and Merry Christmas to you. We're going to switch over to Andy in Texas. Aloha, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, hi, Mike. Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about that Virginia situation with the guns and whatnot. There's this guy on YouTube, High Impact Vlogs, VLOGS. He actually called the National Guard Administration Office and talked to a staff sergeant there, and quizzed him on what was going on there. And this guy insured him that certainly they do have bills and whatnot that they are trying to pass, but hasn't got anywhere thus far. And he also assured this guy that that if it was passed, that they would stand by their oath of obligation from the get-go. I got a little concerned with that because I was also in the military, and they asked me to do a bunch of stuff that I thought was unconstitutional. Not at the time. Now I do because I was just following orders. But so I you know, it's just a little. I don't know if that comforts some people. That this guy was pretty emphatic about what he was saying, and that no, we stand by. Well, as long as we wear this uniform, then the Constitution stands first in our eyes and whatnot. And they take their orders from the governor. He specifically say that, not some bureaucrat in their little jurisdiction area or whatever. So, I mean, I would encourage people to go check that video out. It's on High Impact Vlogs on YouTube. It's a really good. His name's Brian. He's a really good guy. He's all over the place trying to keep people honest and whatnot, and he recommends other people's videos too. So you'll find some other good information from it. But as far as I'm concerned right now, this Virginia gun grab is at a dead stick. However, they are introducing these particular resolutions and whatnot in their little Congress that they have. And he says, and until that, he said, first and foremost, it's going to get stuck in the courts before it gets anywhere. It'll be in the courts before the ink gets dry on the paper if the governor passes it. So I think we do have some time, but this is a good time to plan and get ready for whatever might be coming.
I would agree because, you know, Virginia's the trial balloon. If they can get away with it in Virginia, they're going to try it in all the remaining 49 states.
Absolutely, and that's going to draw us into this so-called civil war. Like you said earlier, there's nothing civil about war. But I think it's high time that we go after these people. I mean, I'm at that point. Being a veteran and being manipulated by the military and just following orders and doing what I was supposed to because I didn't want to get in trouble. And, you know, if only one person stands up against a military order that's unconstitutional, then you're just a guy going to the brig. If you can get a handful of people to stand up, then you're just a handful of people going to the brig. But if you can get everybody in your unit to say, hey, wait a minute, this is wrong. I think we're getting to that point. I think the military is more awake than we think they are, be it the Army Reserves or the National Guard or the active duty people. I think we're getting at a standoffish point here where we're about ready to go after these people, and I don't think they know we're coming. I don't think they think we have the guts enough to come after them, and I think that's their weakness.
Well, you need to keep in mind, first of all, when I lived in Hawaii, I met a lot of military people because Hawaii has the highest per capita density of military people. And they were all pretty much strict constitutionalists. And you need to understand, it is a part of the Uniform Code of Military Justice that all soldiers, sailors, airmen, air people, whatever they want to call them this week, do have a legal right to refuse an order they considered itself to be illegal, crime against humanity, unconstitutional. That's what Aaron Watada did. And of course, they put a lot of pressure on him to try and get him to sort of back off because he was giving the rest of the military these uppity ideas that they could reject illegal orders. And unfortunately, when you are a warmongering, conquering power, giving orders that violate international law is kind of part of the toolkit.
I think the military is just as corrupt in the upper echelon as the Congress and Senate and presidential, whatever. I think they're just as corrupt. I think and so therein lies the problem. It's the same thing. You're a whistleblower as a citizen, or you're a whistleblower in the military. You're going to be brought down on. And if you don't stand out anywhere, if you're just a nobody who steps up and wants to defend the Constitution by yourself or whatnot, you're going to disappear, whether you be in the military or you're just a civilian trying to live your life. That's the problem is everybody, the thing is that we need to find a collective way to come together.
Yes.
But the problem is with that, you have infiltration. And when you have infiltration, you have a very hard time coming together because then you're turned into something that you're not. Anyway, thanks for your time, Mike.
All right. Thanks an awful lot for the phone call. Merry Christmas. We're going to take a commercial break. We have another caller waiting on the line, and we'll be back with the last segment of today's program after these few words.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no work, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. We're going to go back to the phones to Sebastian in Sweden. Aloha, Sebastian. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay, Mike. I just want to say that the latest polls, Gallup polls in Sweden, put the Swedish Democrats ahead of the Social Democrats. So right now, if there was an election tomorrow, they would be the largest party in Riksdag or Congress. So that's really good news. And also good news, I'm going to go up to Stockholm. Unfortunately, Stockholm, I hate the city. It's really run down now before it was when I first came here in 1970. But yeah, I'm going up to Stockholm to see my children and grandchildren for Christmas.
Good.
And another thing with this, a lot of people have been calling today about revolution or civil war and what have you. All I have to say is that I reach out to all the special forces, ex-special forces, and ex-engineers. If that ever happens, just use your American ingenuity. That's all I have to say about that.
Well,
and I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you as well. I don't know that Americans are as ingenious as they once were. I know when I was a kid growing up, it was kind of a source of national pride that we could invent things. We could, we could go into space. We were in second place behind the Russians, but we caught up. These days, we've sort of lost a lot of that sense of innovation. And our schools are de-emphasizing math and engineering and science education in favor of feelings and indoctrination about LGBTQ issues and human-caused global warming. And so our children are no longer being educated by the schools, they're being propagandized. And people who are being propagandized are usually not very good at coming up with solutions to real-world problems. So we're not the nation that we used to be. We're definitely an empire in decline.
I'm sorry about that. I have a little book at home here of my inventions, but to patent an invention in Sweden, you have to get a Swedish patent, then a European patent, and it relates to like $30,000 just to get a patent. But
it's like that here in the U.S.
Applied. Yeah. So, but I've applied. But the thing here that if you have an invention, if you write it down, put it in an envelope, and seal it with a seal, with a like this plastic or whatever, a wax seal, and you send it to yourself. In a law of court here, if someone comes up with that invention, you can open that in the court, and you can say that they had.
Well, that won't work here in the United States of America. It's kind of an urban legend, but no, the reality is that unless you have a patent or a copyright to establish authorship, that mailing to yourself trick doesn't work. Anyway, Sebastian, we're going to let you go. The music is playing. It's time for us to get on out of here. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word about RBN. Spread the word about whatreallyhappened.com. Please make sure to leave a little something in our Christmas stockings. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.